Abigail. Oh yes, this was a movie I was highly anticipated for after seeing previews of it when I went to see Imaginary, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. At first, I thought the critics and audience were going to be too harsh with the movie because of how the way the trailer came out. But when I saw the trailer and seeing how some of the quotes in the movie were, I thought this movie actually might be a great movie to watch. Because I felt like this movie, along with Megan, were the highly anticipated movies I really wanted to see. Now, this movie got highly praised by both critics and audience, but not on the highly same level as Megan got. Because honestly, after seeing Halloween Ends, when it showed the trailer of Megan, I wanted to see that movie so badly, and I was highly anticipated for it. And I knew I was gonna have a blast with the main character herself, who again, like I said before, I don't see as an actual villain. And to be honest, I thought the same thing too with Abigail. Because honestly, when it comes to movie titles like Megan, Wednesday, Wonka, and of course Abigail, you kind of likely less root for these characters throughout the entire adventure of the movie experience. Even if Wednesday isn't a movie, it might as well be. I went and saw this movie 3 times. The first time when I watched the movie, I went as a critic. The second time, I went both as a critic and an actual fan of the movie since I love the damn movie so much. And the third time, I went to see it with a couple of friends of mine. And when it came out on its opening day, that was my first time I actually saw a movie on its opening weekend on a Friday. The great news is Abigail became a new horror icon, along with the others that are in the lineup. But the bad thing is, it didn't do too good at the box office as I was expecting it was going to be good. But somewhere, it followed second place behind in the box office, behind Civil War. Gee, I can't imagine why so many people didn't want to see this movie. Instead, they went to see that movie. One word: pussy. The story itself has a lot of twists and turns into it. 6 criminals in New York actually capture a ballet dancer named Abigail in New York. And after 24 hours, each of them will receive $7 million, so as long as they keep Abigail safe in the mansion. But little did they know that they got more than what they bargained. Just to let everybody know, I'm about to go into spoiler territory, so if you don't want to know any of this stuff, in case you haven't seen the movie yet and want to see it for yourself, that'll be your opportunity to stop watching this video and go watch something else for a change. So basically, you actually got the 6 criminals as being one-dimensional because they only have one personal trait that actually goes along with it. And if I could be honest about this, I can already tell who was going to live out of all this group. And starting this off is Joey herself. Despite her being a former medic in the army and being a recovering drug addict junkie, as she's mostly called throughout the picture, she has a heart of gold and much likely her actions can actually make her realize what's right and what's wrong. She has a heart of gold in which much likely her actions that she can be optimistic about the situation that she and her criminal buddies got themselves into. And honestly, I could actually see Joey being a better role model in this situation. Because not only does she have a sharp wit, barely any fear, but she's also very caring. And despite the fact that she ain't never seen her son so much in years after leaving him, and the bonding that she forms with the girl really does pay off. And it made me realize, why can't most horror stories actually just balance out so much heart in the actual story? Because it can't just always be about drugs, sex, and gore. There has to be a story that has to be balanced out that you're actually telling. Otherwise, it would be no show, no tell. But the way they did it here, along with what they did in Megan, there's a whole lot of heart put into it, and it makes my heart melt. Because there have been some cases where I found myself in a situation like this before. And I will say, she's one of my favorite characters in this movie because she was well written and well done, especially with a great performance by Melissa Barrera.
You're really good at pretending to be a little girl.
Thank you. Quick question. Who's inside a cage right now?
And you know, I especially loved her performance in the new Scream 2022 movie. And as for the rest of Joey's crew, they kind of didn't leave too much of a big impact on me, with the exception of one who I'm going to get to in a moment. You got Marine Sniper Rickos, you've got Hacker Sammy, the dumb macho Canadian mob enforcer Peter, the psychotic brain-dead Dean. By the way, I should point out that this was the last film Angus Cloud actually worked on just before his passing in July 2023. And if I could be honest, I'm so glad they actually cut his scenes short. Oh yeah, he was the first to go. And of course, the one I despised the most throughout this movie was former Detective Frank, played by Dan Stevens. If I could be very honest, I despised this guy throughout this entire movie, even in the very beginning. 3 words to sum it all up, why? He's a prick. Throughout much of the movie, he's always screaming so much profanity of dropping the F-bomb in every single sentence in every scene. And again, he did bring so much life to this character. Better than how he did playing a Disney live-action CGI beast.
And when she opens the door, give her a dashing debonair smile. Come, come, show me the smile.
Other than Joey being so much the best character out of all these guys, they are nothing compared to the saving grace of this movie of all time and one of the best characters I actually liked. And that goes to, you guessed it, Abigail. Not only is this one of the greatest performances by Alicia Weir, but she had also stated that this was one of her favorites, and it really shows. With her childish human nature for ballet, and her dangerous vampire dark side, she is the perfect blend of being playfully childish and threateningly frightening. With that likely being said, Alicia feels like she's having the time of her life as this character, and this enjoyment transcends onto the viewers. And just like Amy Donald, Alicia did her own stunts in this movie too. And there were some scenes where some of her stunts were so difficult because she appeared so vampiric, she had to practice them herself before doing it for real on the set. Especially during the climax. I just love this character right behind Megan. Some say that she's the villain of this movie. However, her motivation is pretty much understandable because she was just doing something to get her father's love affection back from her by killing off those who actually did him wrong. And if I could be honest, I really felt sorry for Abigail. But I would consider her more of an anti-villain because I see more good than bad in her. Just because you're a bloodthirsty vampire, that doesn't mean you have to be a bad guy. I had my fingers crossed throughout this entire movie once Abigail revealed her true vampire, so I was hoping she was not gonna die in this movie. And the climax in the very end, oh my gosh, I actually loved it, how Joey and her teamed up. It reminded me so much of Jurassic World. And honestly, after watching this movie, I started doing a little bit of ballet choreographics myself, especially when I'm practicing them with A Night on Bald Mountain. And it's amazing how you got a child actor who went from playing Matilda in Matilda the Musical to being a bloodthirsty vampire child. And one thing about Abigail that I kind of did and didn't even notice, that somehow this movie was actually based on the reimagining of the classic monster of Dracula's Daughter from 1936. Originally it was going to be called Dracula's Daughter, but instead they actually changed it to Abigail so they could draw more viewers in to see the movie. So instead of being taking place where Dracula took place at in its feature film, this movie actually took more place in the modern time. So I think it's best to say that I could just watch this movie over Dracula's Daughter. And you know, I think this would have actually been better if it was a Blumhouse production movie, and there would have been a Blumhouse cinematic universe, which I would be highly sucked into. Oh, I do like this film so much. There are a few criticisms and nitpicks of this movie, and one of them, as I stated before, is the predictability of the characters of you know about who's going to survive and who's going to die. But my biggest criticism has to be, why is it every time when a vampire gets killed, they explode? It feels kind of weird, because I never usually see a vampire explode when they get killed. I was being sure that I was actually watching Abigail and not watching Ready or Not. That is not a joke, by the way. There's a bit of an Easter egg in the actual mansion. There's a picture poetry of Tony Lodomas from the movie Ready or Not, another film that Radio Silence produced. So I would say Abigail is more of a highly recommend to watch for anybody who's a vampire fan, and if you like vampire girls with killer ballet moves, then this is a movie you can actually enjoy and sit through. And likely, I would consider this movie to be on my top 5 favorite movies of all time. Oh, and also, tops to Radio Silent Production for making this movie happen. Hope you'll enjoy this movie and let me know what you actually think of the movie itself.
Joey,
Yeah.
I'm sorry about what's gonna happen to you.